What is the best basketball team ever assembled? The answer to this question is pretty much undebatable. The 1992 USA Men's Olympic team, affectionately and accurately called the Dream Team, was a collection of talent on one team unlike the world had ever seen or has since. And, might I add to make you jealous, I got to see them play live when I was 11 in an exhibition match before the Olympics began. In this video, we're going to look at the basketball cards that were created for the Dream Team and learn about how this team came to be and the dramatic stories on their path to gold medal glory. Prior to the 1992 Olympics, professional athletes were not allowed to compete in the Olympic Games. From 1936, when basketball was first added as an Olympic sport, until 1988, the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team was comprised of some of the best college talent the country had to offer. The reason for this change of approach to allow in professional athletes was mostly done due to the way certain countries, most notably Russia, were getting around this particular rule. In order to get its very best athletes into the Olympics, Russia would conscript them into the army, but their role in the army was only to train for the Olympic event. In this way, these athletes were not officially considered professional athletes, but they were being paid to play their sport and train to improve. This allowed them to send their very best players to the Olympics, while countries like the US were sending relatively unproven young college talent. We'll look at the story of Arvydas Sabonis a little bit later in this video that highlights this a little bit better. Now, despite this limitation for the US team, in the 11 Olympics in which the US men's national team played between 1936 and 1988, the US won the gold 9 of those 11 times. The 2 times they didn't win gold being 1972 and 1988. The 1972 gold medal game loss to the USSR is one that is considered to be among the most controversial games in Olympic basketball history. I do recommend reading about it or finding a video about it because it's fascinating. But just to summarize, essentially the Soviet Union was given 3 separate opportunities to get a chance to make their final game-winning shot, despite the fact that the final buzzer had gone off before they ever even had a chance to do one. The controversy was such a big deal that the final result of who was determined to have won the gold medal game was ultimately decided upon by a FIBA 5-member jury. The vote concluded at 3 votes to 2, the 3 votes for Russia coming from FIBA members from Soviet bloc countries. Keep in mind, this was right in the middle of the Cold War, and the animosity between the US and the USSR was palpable. After this, despite finishing with the silver medal, the US team did not attend the medal ceremony and voted unanimously to refuse the silver medal, believing the gold medal was stolen from them. Previous to this game, the US had had a 63-0 record in Olympic basketball. Keeping in mind, this wasn't even their professionals, it was the college level players, and they had a 63-0 record in the Olympics. The only other time before the 1990s that the US didn't win the gold medal was in 1988. That year, the Soviet Union won the gold medal behind the phenomenal play of 23-year-old superstar Arvydas Sabonis, who had actually been drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers 2 years earlier in the 1986 NBA draft. However, the Russian authorities did not allow Sabonis to play basketball in the NBA, as it would negate his amateur basketball status and disallow him from playing on the Soviet Union's Olympic team. Instead, he played basketball in Lithuania and then in Spain before joining the Blazers as a 30-year-old with injury problems that were so bad that his trainer said he probably could meet the requirements to get handicap parking. Sabonis is one of the biggest what-if stories in NBA history. During his prime, when he wasn't in the NBA, he was considered by many to be the second best big man in the world behind only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. At the time, he was considered the best shooting big man ever lived and one of the best big man passers ever as well. A combination of a prime Sabonis with a prime Drexler and a prime Terry Porter, that could have been a dynasty. And as another side note here, I'm not sure why playing professionally in Lithuania and Spain wouldn't negate his amateur basketball status. If you have an answer to that question, please do let us know in the comments below. It seems like the NBA is the only one that was considered professional. Other professional leagues seem to not be considered professional by the Olympic standards here from 1988 and before. I'm not sure why. If you do know, let us know. I'll pin your comment if you have a good answer for that. But in 1988, the US men's team didn't even manage to pull off a silver medal either. That honor went to a team that ended up having 5 players that made it to the NBA, Yugoslavia. 3 of Yugoslavia's players on this team would go on to be 3 of the 5 players dubbed by Sports Illustrated as the Green Card 5 in 1989. They were the very first 5 players to ever enter the NBA without going through the US collegiate system. Those 3 players were Drazen Petrovic, who averaged 22.5 points per game with the Nets in 92-93 before his life was tragically cut short by a car accident, and he is in the Basketball Hall of Fame now. Vlade Divac, who is also now in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and Zarko Paspalj. I'm Sorry if I mispronounced that. 2 other players from this Yugoslavia team ended up joining the NBA later in 1993. Dino Raja, who's also in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and Toni Kukoc, who is also in the Basketball Hall of Fame. So yeah, Yugoslavia had an amazing team. That's 4 Hall of Famers. The 1988 US team, on the other hand, only had 2 players that ended up making the Hall of Fame, David Robinson and Mitch Richmond. And though the rest of the team had some very solid talent with the likes of Hershey Hawkins, Dan Marley, Danny Manning, and Stacey Augmon, the older and more veteran talent of the USSR and Yugoslavia was enough to dethrone the US team. It was shortly after this bronze medal finish that FIBA voted to lift the restrictions not allowing professional athletes to compete in the Olympics. This meant that in 1992, the US men's basketball team could be made up of the best among American players from the entirety of the NBA. To decide who would be on this historic team, USA Basketball formed a committee in 1989 and took 2 years to choose the team. This committee was headed by C.M. Newton, who had been an assistant coach of the 1984 Olympic team and was currently the athletic director of the University of Kentucky, a couple NBA executives, a couple college coaches, including Mike Krzyzewski and PJ Carlesimo, who would both become assistant coaches for the Dream Team, and a representative of the NBA Players Association. They made up the rest of the committee. The tryouts, quote-unquote, for who would make the Olympic team was essentially the 90-91 and 91-92 NBA season. On September 21st, 1991, the first 10 members of the selected team were revealed. Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Larry Bird, Chris Mullin, Scottie Pippen, and Michael Jordan. From those 10, 8 of them immediately accepted the invitation, but 2 of them were reluctant. Larry Bird, who would be 35 during the Olympic Games, thought he was too old for the team. Plus, he had been struggling with some back issues. But after Magic Johnson called Bird 24 times trying to convince him to join the team, Bird finally agreed. Magic even came to say later that if Bird hadn't joined the team, he himself might have backed out, as he felt that the team wouldn't have been a team without Larry Bird on it. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson ended up being selected as the co-captains of the team. Magic Johnson's invitation to the team was something monumental in itself, especially considering he wasn't actually in the NBA at the time, as he had been out of the league for the past season after being diagnosed with HIV. The second player who was reluctant to join the team was none other than Michael Jordan. Jordan explained later that he always planned on joining the team, but that his reluctance that he did have was mostly due to the fact that he had already done the Olympics thing, helping the US team to a gold medal in the 1984 Olympics, when he was a student at the University of North Carolina. He also didn't have the greatest memories from that particular experience, as he didn't like playing for Bobby Knight. He said later that if he had known in advance what Knight was going to be like as a coach, he might not have joined the Olympic team in 1984. Add to this that Jordan was concerned about playing more intense competition again after the grind of a full season and a long playoff run, and the Bulls always had long playoff runs when Jordan was on the team. But eventually, despite all this, Jordan did decide to join the team, and thank goodness, a dream team without Jordan, Magic, or Bird wouldn't have been a dream team. After these 10 members were selected and agreed to be on the team, it would be another 8 months before the last 2 members of the dream team were announced. One of these slots would go to a college player as a sort of ode to the long history of only college players playing for the US men's Olympic team, and the other slot was narrowed down to most likely either Reggie Miller, Isaiah Thomas, Dominique Wilkins, Kevin Johnson, Tim Hardaway, or Clyde Drexler. The last NBA player slot was given to Clyde Drexler after he finished the 91-92 season second in MVP voting and had just led his Blazers team to the finals to face off against Jordan and the Bulls. Drexler was originally upset, and justifiably so in my opinion, that he wasn't chosen among the initial 10, but he was happy to join the team when he was offered a spot. The player who seems to have come the closest to taking that last spot instead was Isaiah Thomas, but he really had no one in his corner making a good case for him. It had been reported quite a lot that Jordan was adamant about not playing on the same team as Thomas, but actually it was much more than just Jordan. None of the other Olympic team members wanted Thomas on the team. Magic Johnson stated later that, quote, Isaiah killed his own chances when it came to the Olympics. Nobody on that team wanted to play with him. He has alienated so many people in his life, and he still doesn't get it. If you went strictly on terms of ability, then Isaiah should have been chosen for the Dream Team. But Michael didn't want to play with him. Scottie wanted no part of him. Bird wasn't pushing for him. Karl Malone didn't want him. Who was saying we need this guy? Nobody. Michael got singled out as the guy that kept Isaiah off, but that really isn't fair. It was everybody. We all understood that camaraderie wouldn't be the same. As for the college player slot, as we now know, the spot went to Christian Laettner. Now, in retrospect, that may seem like a strange choice, as Laettner would go on to have a solidly decent but fairly average NBA career. Add to that the fact that Shaquille O'Neal and Alonzo Mourning were the other 2 players most in contention for that college player slot, and both of them ended up having superstar Hall of Fame NBA careers years, and it may seem even stranger that Laettner was chosen. However, at the time, Laettner had just led his Duke Daredevils to their second straight NCAA championship, and he was given the NCAA Player of the Year trophy. In fact, many still consider Laettner to be one of the best NCAA basketball players of all time. So even though adding Shaq or Mourning to Dream Team 1 would make a lot more sense in retrospect, at the time it was considered reasonable. That being said, many people did think Shaq should have been on the team, as he was the first overall selection in the NBA draft that occurred before the Olympics even began. Laettner ended up being selected third overall, behind both Shaq and Zoe. And thus, the 12-member squad of Dream Team 1 was chosen. Chuck Daly, who was transitioning from being the Pistons coach to becoming the New Jersey Nets coach at the time, was chosen to be the coach of this historic group of all-time greats. And oh man, did this team dominate. In their opening game against Angola, they won by a 68-point margin, 116-48. They would go on to win every game easily, winning by an average margin of 43.8 points throughout the tournament. The team routed their opponents so mightily that Coach Chuck Daly never even once called a timeout during the entirety of the Olympics. The team's statistical leaders during the Olympics were, keep in mind, an Olympics game is 40 minutes long instead of the NBA's 48 minutes long, so these stats look a little different. Points, Charles Barkley with 18 points per game. He also had these points with a team-high field goal percentage of 71.1%. including 7 of 8 from three-point range, which was the highest percentage of three-point range despite very few attempts. Rebounds, Patrick Ewing and Karl Malone with 5 rebounds per game. Assists, Scottie Pippen with 5.88 assists per game. Steals, Michael Jordan with 4.63 steals per game. And minutes, Michael Jordan with 23.3 minutes per game. Now I'm including this last one here to just highlight how the roster minutes were very spread out. Michael Jordan only played a little bit more than half the game, but he played more than anybody else on the team on average. To this day, though many other great Olympic basketball teams have been assembled, none can really rival the pure majesty of this group of all-time greats. And while incredible squads will undoubtedly continue to be assembled into the distant future, Dream Team 1 may never be outshined when it comes to the most iconic Olympic basketball team of all time. With this in mind, I think that having a personal collection of Dream Team 1 related basketball cards can be something really worthwhile. While most of the Dream Team related cards produced during this time were overproduced like crazy, meaning their values are pretty low now, that also means it's not expensive to get yourself a nice personal collection of Dream Team 1 cards. For the next part of this video, I'm going to share with you some of my favorites. The first cards I'll share with you are from the 91-92 Skybox set. I'm showing this set first because I personally think that if you just wanted a small Dream Team inspired display, you can't go wrong with getting cards 544, 545, and 546, which when placed side by side make for a great horizontal photo of all of the original 10 chosen players in one photo. Unfortunately, the photo is missing Drexler and Laettner since they had not been selected by the time this set was produced. Besides these 3 team cards, this set also includes individual cards for each of the original 10 members of Dream Team 1, as well as for their coach, Chuck Daly, and 3 assistant coaches. And just as a side note, in addition to these Dream Team 1 cards, this set also features 17 other cards that highlight players who were part of the 1984 and 1988 US Olympic team. All of the cards mentioned from this set were part of the normal base set, so today they're pretty easy to find and none too expensive. Besides perhaps the Jordan card and the 3 team cards, the rest can be found for maybe like $1 or less, and even those mentioned more expensive cards would still just be like maybe $3 or something. Not the kind of cards to get if you want to invest in sports cards, but some great cards to collect for historical significance and nostalgic memory. The next set we'll look at was released around this same time and is called the 1992 Skybox USA set. Now I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular set since the individual cards in this set, though they are the players from Dream Team 1, once again except for Drexler and Laettner, who weren't yet chosen to be on the team when this set was released, but they aren't wearing their Olympics jersey in any of the fronts of the cards of these photos. In some of the back they are. For me personally, that makes them less fun to collect as a Dream Team inspired set. That being said, there is one individual card that has all 10 original Dream Team 1 members on it, and that card does feature all of them in their USA Basketball jerseys. If I was considering PCing any cards from this set, that'd probably be the only one I'd ever get. But they are cheap if you like them, just a couple bucks a piece or $1 even. The next set we're going to look at is one of my favorite Dream Team 1 sets of all time. In the 92-93 Skybox release, these Road to Gold Olympic team inserts could be found in 1/6 packs. As well as having a visual aesthetic that I just personally like, this set is also the first we've looked at thus far that actually includes all 12 Dream Team 1 players. This set was released a year after the previous 2 sets we looked at, so So by this time, Drexler and Leitner were also on the team. In addition, each card includes a little box that shows each player's Olympic stats, which I think is a nice addition as far as making for a cool collection of cards to display in some way. Stepping away from the Skybox offerings, the next two sets we'll look at look very, very similar to each other and are both from Hoops. As part of the 91-92 Hoops base set, USA Basketball cards wearing their USA Basketball jerseys of the original 10 Dream Team 1 members are included. Once again, as part of the main base set, these cards could be found very commonly, and most should be able to be found for around like $1 or so. The second Hoops release looks almost identical to this, but this here is the McDonald's set. With each extra value meal purchase, you would get 3 NBA card packs and 1 USA Olympic team pack, or you could pay 49 cents and get the packs with any other purchase instead. Similar to the other Hoops set, these can also be pretty easily found for like $1 or less a piece. And then just like Skybox, Hoops also released another set of Dream Team 1 cards in 92-93, which once again include Drexler and Leitner, unlike the sets released a year earlier. And though for me personally, aesthetically speaking, these are maybe my least favorite of the sets we've looked at so far, I do quite like the team card released with this set that includes all 12 players and Coach Daly. This is maybe my favorite of the team photo cards actually. Coming a little late to the Dream Team card game, in the 93-94 Upper Deck SE set, it was possible to pull this redemption card, which could be exchanged for a full set of 1992 USA Basketball team cards. Though the redemption card itself was quite rare, inserted at just 1 per 360 packs, the fact that the redemption card meant you got every single card in the set means that those pack odds are a little deceiving. Nowadays, the cards in this set sell for similar prices to the Hoops and Skybox cards mentioned earlier, so very, very little. As we get up into the 93 and 94 basketball card releases, most Olympics-related cards begin shifting to featuring Dream Team 2 players who would end up playing on the 1994 Basketball World Championships. Some of these did feature an odd Dream Team 1 player here and there, but none of them had the Dream Team 1 as a full set of featured players. And in some ways, the timing of Dream Team 1 in relation to card production is a little bit unfortunate, because though there still are a couple of 21st century produced Dream Team 1 sets that I'll show you here in a moment, including one really cool one that I like, Dream Team 1 cards missed a lot of the evolution of card aesthetics and production quality that started off right around 1993. 1993 was the first year to feature truly premium cards, with the 93-94 Topps Finest release making many a collector drool. And from then up throughout the next several years, the insert game of many card manufacturers took on new levels of creativity. As such, while Dream Team 1 mostly just had some relatively common base-looking cards of their team, Dream Team 2 and 3 ended up getting some really cool-looking inserts with a number of different sets. Like, look at these 1994 Flair USA Basketball cards of Dream Team 2, or these trippy lenticular cards of Dream Team 3 in the 1996 Fleer USA Basketball card release. By the time the 2000 Olympics came around, basketball cards had evolved to have inserts that included game-worn jersey relics. And with releases like this 2000-2001 Finest Moments Relics, you could get cards with US Olympic team basketball jerseys embedded inside. Couldn't find anything like that for Dream Team 1. For the next release of Dream Team 1 inspired cards we'll look at, we're going to have to jump all the way up to 2009-10 with Panini's Hall of Fame release. This release focused entirely on Hall of Fame greats throughout the annals of basketball history, and there were several sets that were specifically related to Dream Team 1. The inserts in this set included the Dream Team inserts, which were numbered to 349, their black border parallels numbered to 199, as well as their 1-of-1 marble parallels. And then the Dream Team Game Threads inserts and Game Thread Prime inserts, which included jersey relics, were the first and only Dream Team 1 jersey cards. The Game Threads cards are serial numbered from out of 500 for the Stockton to out of 1075 for the Karl Malone. I'm not sure why the big variation in serial numbers in this set, while the Game Threads Prime included nicer looking swatches and were numbered to 99. One thing that must be said about all these inserts mentioned in the Hall of Fame set though, is that each of them only includes 9 of the Dream Team members. Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and Christian Laettner are noticeably absent from this set. The Panini Hall of Fame release also included the Dream Team Marks of Fame set, which only included 6 members of Dream Team 1, Bird, Magic, Drexler, Stockton, Mullen, and Pippen, but that are autographed cards serial numbered to just 49. The next set featuring Dream Team 1 players was from the 2014-15 Panini Select release, in which 40 of their courtside cards featured players in the Olympics uniforms over the decade. However, only 8 of Dream Team 1 players ended up scattered within this checklist. And this idea of maybe just 7 or 8 of Dream Team 1 members being in an Olympics-inspired insert set or subset continued in a number of other sets since then, from super high-end to very low-end. The 2015-16 Panini Flawless USA Gold Medal insert, serial numbered out of just 10 each, with a checklist of 20 Olympians, included 6 Dream Team 1 players. The 2019-20 Flawless USA Basketball release had 6 Dream Team 1 members. And on the lower end of things, the 2019-2020 Panini Mosaic included a subset of USA Basketball cards that included 5 Dream Team 1 players. But really, by the time we're getting up here, Dream Team 1 players are just so randomly scattered here and there that thinking of them as collectible in some way, unless you PC one specific player, is kind of hard to imagine. So really, when it comes to Dream Team 1 cards, if you want to PC something that includes all 12 players and all in their Olympic uniforms, the only real choices are the 92-93 Skybox Road to Gold, 92-93 Hoops or Hoops McDonald's, and the 93-94 Upper Deck SE Redemption set. If you did enjoy this video, please do hit that like button and subscribe button if you haven't already. See you in the next one. Peace.